Hello, everyone. It's Amy from Seriously Sweet. I hope your day has been sweet, and it is now time for part 2 of Cookie 1 of the series Fall Days, Fright Nights. And I hope you're going to be able to join us tonight as we hand sculpt 3 really cool pieces to go on the first cookie in the series of Fall Days, Fright Nights. And if you're wondering why you can't see my face yet, it's because I am sharing our live stream over into Cookie Snack Attack, because although it was working perfectly this morning, it will now not link up with StreamYard again. As is the case with all technology, sometimes it's just finicky. So we're shared over there. You guys let me know when you arrive. I have cool stuff to show you. Let's see. Hello, hello. How is everyone? I hope you are doing very well this evening. So I'm going to just give you a couple seconds and let a few more people get on here since we were just able to share it. Oh, awesome, Elizabeth. You're going to have a great time tonight. These are so much fun to make. Hello, hello. Hi, Miss Deborah. Hi, Kathy. Hello. Hi, April. Hello, Debbie. I'm not sure if Jen is going to be with us tonight or not, but I'm going to drop a comment in really quickly. This is for all the folks that catch the replay later, or if you, hey Debbie, how are you? If you are going to be attending Cookie Con in Dallas at the beginning of October, hey Sandy, how are you? Hey, Barbie, how are you? Hey, Sabra. Okay, so if you are one of the people that's going to be attending Dallas in the beginning part of October, CookieCon 2021, if you will follow that link after the broadcast, there is a free download. Of course, you can feel free to leave a few bucks as a tip for tonight or for the cookie. I'm trying to keep your costs down over there with regard to royal icing transfers and things like that. So digital tips and gifts are always appreciated, very much appreciated in keeping the live stream going. But anyway, if you go over there, there is a download of a form that I need you to fill out if you are physically going to be present in Dallas. So if you're going to be in Dallas, the form looks like this. It says Seriously Sweet, and then it says Cookie Snack Attack goes to CookieCon Dallas. I have a special gift for founding members of the Cookie Snack Attack group. Okay, who's a founding member? Anybody that is in our group that I can verify in the group that has this form returned to me by September 21st, that is also physically in person attending Dallas CookieCon, is eligible for this free gift bag that I'm putting together for you. So, founding members of the group who will be attending CookieCon Dallas 2021, please provide the below info, snap a picture of this form with your phone, and you'll be texting it back to 540-870-0726. Even if you already get notified by text message when we're going to have our live streams, please text to that same phone number, 540-870-0726. Text the word CookieCon all together, all capitals, and it's going to put you in both groups. It's going to put you in live stream alerts, and it's going to create a separate group for us for when we're at CookieCon so that we can all communicate with each other once we're in Dallas without interrupting or causing a bunch of texts to go to our regular live stream folks that will not be at CookieCon. So it's going to put you off in a separate group so that if we catch a free room that we can use or a good place to have a meetup, then I'm going to be able to text everybody that's there quickly and get a hold of you fast that way. So the same phone number that you have previously texted the word live stream to, please go to that same phone number and text CookieCon. It won't kick you out of the one group and put you in the other group. You'll just be in both, but it's how I'll communicate with you once we're in Dallas, because I would love to have a meetup and get a first group picture, okay? By the way, did you guys see that we're over 900 people? I don't know when that happened. I'm usually like right on top of it when we click over the next 100. Somehow I missed it, but we're over 900 people, which is so cool. Maybe we'll be at 1,000 by the time we go to CookieCon, and then we can just let it start exploding from there, right? So text the word CookieCon to that phone number, which is on that free download. The link is in the comments, so you can find it after the live stream. So text the word CookieCon. That'll put you in the group. Then take a snapshot of this form after you fill it out, and then send it to that same number. So it will put it automatically in that group. So I'll have you guys together. Now, the reason I need this back by September 21st is because I have to have all of the gift bags made and shipped so that they arrive prior to me leaving for CookieCon, the 5th or whatever it is of November. I have to have enough time that week to get everything packed and out of here by the Saturday of this week, so that they will arrive before I get there, because I'm hoping there's lots of us going. So there'll be lots of people taking me up on this free swag offer. It's got a cute little picture of a baby cookie monster. So look for that download. So basically just tell me your name, when you're arriving, when you're leaving, if you do or don't want to participate in a meetup, what track you're in. If you have other friends coming with you that aren't in the group yet, but they're in your track, put their names here if you want. Classes and times on Wednesday, classes and times on Thursday, and elective classes you're in. The reason I'm asking for that information is because I'll be in a group of 4 that is attending. So if it gets to be where you can't do a meetup, or there's no place for us to meet up, so I can't see a whole bunch of you at one time, and there's a lot of these bags to give out, I'm sure that the other people that are with me, because several of them are in different tracks, then we'll be able to get your bags to you that way too, okay? I personally would love to meet all of you that are going to be there, because you have been so supportive this year. I want to put in-person faces to names and to camera faces, Facebook profile pictures. I want to link it all together because I'm super visual. So if you can help me out with that, and please have this back by September 21st, that would be awesome, okay? All right, now, earlier this morning, I showed you the cookie that we're working on tonight, and we did a little bit of legwork, so I will undo that in a minute, but I want to show you something for is it for next week? No, it's not for next week, but you should get one of these. The next time you're in a store that sells these little pre-made pie crusts, grab one of these Oreo pie crusts, bring it home, undo this part, slide the whole thing into a 1-gallon Ziploc, and then just rub it between your hands and crush it up real good. If you're going to be purchasing, the reason I'm telling you this is because they tend to sell out. This Oreo crust tends to sell out this time of year. You know, like the shortbread and the graham cracker sell out more in the summertime when people are making a lot of sand cookies. This tends to sell out around Halloween. If you're going to be purchasing the Halloween kit that's going to go up for sale at the end of September, then this is an additional item that's not coming in your kits that you're going to need to purchase. Or you can purchase chocolate ground graham cracker crust if you want to, but it's not as pretty. So if you get a chance, these are $2. Pick one of these up. One is enough for everything we're going to do with it, but we are going to be doing something so fun, and you are not going to want to miss it. So grab one of these, okay? By the way, if you were on earlier, there were no pink suitcases. They were sold out. And they do have some on Amazon, but they're 3 times as much as they would have been had I been able to grab them in that store. So it might be my traditional fleur-de-lis suitcases when I arrive in Texas. So anyway, hey, everybody. Hey, Kat. Hey, Allison. Hi, Sally. Hey, Shayna. How are you? Yeah, Sally was in Orlando, and her cookies were fabulous. So proud of you that you entered. Did you win anything, Sally? That's what I wanted to ask you the other day, is did you win any of the raffles? And Kelly, if you went last year, but not this year, maybe you're going next year. And I hope to be able to go each year going forward. Yeah, Allison is going to have to take on another job to be ready to go, because we plan to do some hardcore shopping. Oh, you didn't win anything, Sally? Oh, I was so hoping you would. I'm going to switch the ticker at the bottom of the screen real quick, okay? Just so it's in the video for people that watch later. If you're attending, Dallas Cookie Con this year, 2021. Text the word CookieCon to 540-870-0726. That'll get you in the group for text alerts for just the people that are physically at Dallas CookieCon in a couple of weeks. That will be how I will communicate with you once we are there. Sometime tonight, go on the coffee shop site, look for the cute little baby Cookie Monster, download that form, fill it out. After you have texted the word CookieCon to that phone number, just use your phone, take a quick picture of your filled out form, and send that back to me via text to that phone number. It'll go right in the box, be all organized. You'll make my life so easy the next few weeks because I'm working on some cookies to enter the competition. I decided I am going to enter at least 2 of them, and I am working on all of the kits for our group that are coming up between now and the end of the year, okay? All right, so let me take that off. So I think that's been in the video long enough for replay, so I'm going to take that off, and then we're just going to leave them all off for the rest of the evening, okay? And let's see. I love this technique. We're going to jump right in, okay? So earlier today, we blacked out this area by doing rough texture. We blacked out the area. For those of you who haven't seen the finished cookie, this is our first cookie in the Fright night. Isn't that so much fun? Look at that. Isn't that great? Alyssa, yes, it is the same number you texted for live stream, but I need you to go back to that number, text the word CookieCon, all caps, no spaces. It'll make a second group of just the people, a subgroup of just the people that are going to Dallas so that we don't interrupt our regular text people while we're communicating with each other in Dallas. And then that is the same way you'll return that form to me if you want one of the gift bag swag bags for Cookie Snack Attack. Okay. By the way, I can't help myself. I ordered something else for your swag bag today. So it should be in on time and it's really cute. And I think you guys are going to love it. Okay, so let's get back to creating our cave. We did this fabulous rock texture and we went through how to create that earlier. I did put mine in the dehydrator for an hour and you can see how nice this is peeling off. Now, it would be great if, I know I can't wait to meet all of you too. I'm super excited about this. And I am going to get an additional vaccine shot before we go just to be extra safe, since we got that long plane ride there and back. I know I want to meet everyone. I don't want to get anybody sick. I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and it'll probably knock me out for a week. And if it does, then I'll be nice and rested before we leave. So anybody that followed me earlier in the year, you know I was pretty much okay on the first shot, but the second shot sent me for a loop. All right. Now, what I'm doing, can you see how I did this in separate pieces? And remember, we talked about the reason I did that is because I wanted to make sure I could really crunch up and get that nice, like, slate look. This is what the mountains of Blue Ridge Mountains look like up on Skyline Drive, about a half an hour from my house. All along the roadside is this kind of texture and these rocks. So that's why I wanted to create it to look like that. Just kind of a little hidden nod to my home area. And if you watch the video from this morning, we're going to talk about the fact that you need to swipe a larger area than what you want your cave entrance to end up being, because when you do this parchment technique and create this rock finish, once you do that, I'm just going to use a dry brush, you guys, and brush all these dusty bits off, okay? Once you put the pressure down, it kind of encroaches on your area that's your door. So what I'm doing before we get started, I'm going to show you how to do dry brushing. You could leave it just like this and it would be perfectly fine. It won't hurt a thing. I'm also going to show you how to clean up these edges a little bit. I don't know if I should tell you not to do this at home or not. Hey, Charlotte, but just be careful if you do this is all I'm going to say, okay? So let me get all these bits and pieces. Let me get my towel flipped out so I don't make such a huge mess. First, let me show you. So you see how it's off the edge a little bit? If that doesn't bother you, just leave it. If you want to know how to clean it up, I'm going to try to very carefully show you with an X-Acto knife. cutting away from you. Hey, Sammy, cutting away from you, you just work that sharp edge on those bits, okay? And now I'm going to do it towards me like I'm peeling a vegetable. You do it away from you. However, I just don't want to be responsible for you if you hurt yourself. Now, at the top part of mine, I want to leave it because it actually did what I wanted it to, and it kind of covered that indentation there that's really meant for what we're doing in that area when we do the fall days. But since we're doing dual purpose cutters, let's get this baby down before I break it. And remember, we added all this icing today, so all that water was transferring back and forth from the royal icing. So this is going to be the weaker part of your cookie, so be very careful when you're picking up and setting down. Also, you need a little bit of white fondant for tonight, and you need a yellow, doesn't matter what yellow. You need a chocolate brown or brown. I'm using chocolate. You use whatever you have. And super black. By the way, all the colors are ordered for all 3 of the kits. So excited. All right. Now, I do want to quickly show you about dry brushing, just in case you've never done it. It's not difficult. I promise you it is not. Let me just get this out of the way because all these little pieces are going to get in the way in a little bit. And let me put my X-Acto knife up so I don't put my hand on it and hurt myself. You do the same thing. If that's open, get the blade covered, okay? Now, what you need off to the side, you could use a zester, Shayna, but I definitely, and I do have one right here, right? It would be really easy to use a zester or a microplaner if you want to clean it up, but don't do it if you did your cookie today, because your cookie, if you haven't let this set overnight, then it's not solid all the way through, which means there's a lot of moisture hanging out between the royal icing and the cookie. So your cookie has become more fragile. So when you go to zest, you know, you're going to have a really good grip on your cookie and you could break your cookie tonight. But if it's sat over 24 hours and you know your icing is totally dry, yes, you could use a zester to do that too. Now, you might not be able to get all the way up in the crevices because the zester will be big, in which case use the X-Acto knife. You can actually use that X-Acto knife like you're sawing it too. But I think for what we're creating, you can leave it just like this and you'll be good to go. Okay. This is a larger cookie, so I'm pretty sure you're going to be boxing it if you create it and not bagging it. All right, so let's talk dry dusting. You don't have to have the colors from the sugar art, but I did tell you in this morning's video that it would be helpful if you got some luster dust in yellow and a taupe or, yeah, a taupe color like that light brown right there, and then Turkish black or black, okay? So what I'm going to do is just start with my Turkish black and a puffy brush, not too big, right? And it's kind of roughed up. Just rough it up a little bit. Okay, it's not wet. It's totally dry. I'm picking up a little bit of Turkish black. This is very concentrated powder. I'm going to knock it back in there. And I'm going to dust it off on my towel a little bit. Now, as soon as you can, put the cap back on these colors so you don't spill them. Think about the natural. Now it's going to, obviously it's going to depend on if you crinkled your paper as much. Do you have overhang areas? But your darker color needs to be underneath the rocks, right? So this one comes way up. I don't want to put a darker color on top. I want to put it underneath. So everything that I'm putting on right now, I'm working from underneath to create these colors. So I'm just going to drop a little bit of dust around the cookie, but I'm actually adhering it to the cookie by going from the bottom and pushing upward because I want those underneath shadow areas. And if at any point you don't have enough of the dust, just get a little bit more out. I always work on a paper towel so that I can throw it away. You don't have to do that. You can work in a paint palette. You can work on parchment paper. I just prefer this because it keeps the dust down, especially on these very potent sugar art colors. I just really don't like to have that flying all over the cookie studio. It's, and now you see what I'm doing? I'm working from underneath. And I'm not even really dusting yet. I'm just dropping lumps of this color. Okay. You see that? All right. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of buff this in. And I'm not doing the whole cookie from underneath. I'm doing whatever areas stuck out the most on my cookie because I want that undershadowing. And you can already tell on camera, look what just that little bit did for that overhang piece I have right there, right? Hey, Cynthia. All right, so this, you don't have to do the dry dusting. This is just a level up suggestion for you if you want to play around with it. Halloween cookies are very forgiving because they're supposed to be spooky looking, so it's not like anybody's going to be going after you for technical difficulty on these cookies, right? Because they're Halloween. And it's a good cookie to start playing around with texturing and shading if you're not familiar with it. Now, do not use Master Elite colors. If you have Sugar Art colors, don't use Master Elite colors for this, right? You want to use the Elite colors because Master Elites have to be water activated to get to their true shape. And we just want to dry dust. And I am so happy with what a great job my dehydrator did. So let's get the lid back on this black because the black is very hard to clean up. Hey, Brooke, how are you? Thank you for being on with us last night. That was so much fun. My husband was sitting in the living room watching the interview on the big screen with the with YouTube. And he was like, oh, that was really nice. So, and he said, congratulations. I didn't get to tell you that last night. But he almost came and got on camera when he saw your son pop on camera. And he said, but I didn't know. I didn't want to interrupt, but he was going to come say hi to you last night. Okay, now the areas that are sticking up and from the top, we want to give them a highlight. So I'm using my dogwood, which is one of my favorite things from Sugar Art to shade with when I'm doing dry dusting. So my cookie hasn't moved. Now I'm coming back and I'm adding highlight color on the ridges, on the top side of the ridges. Is this necessary? No. Does it look great on the cookies? You know it does. So it's how much time you want to put in. If it's something you're charging somebody more for a cake topper, then you have the money set aside in your budget to add this. By the way, guys, if you did the fireplace with me last year in Cookie-a-thon, not Cookie Con, but Cookie-a-thon, you already own this dogwood because this is the same thing we use to create that nice matte finish on our fireplaces. Now, for fun. Hey, Nicole, how are you? I'll tell him. He went out to do a few things tonight. And at the other house, he's got some stuff he's working on. And so he went out to take care of that. And then he will be back. And hopefully we'll get to work on the kitchen a little bit more tonight when we get done streaming. All right. So now I've blended. Now you see, let me lift this just so you really, I hope I don't break my cookie because I can tell mine is not set up all the way. But can you see what we did? How much difference that we got by highlighting from the top and shading from the bottom. Can you guys see that? I mean, it's just such a huge difference. And we're going to practice a little bit more with the Turkish Black when we do our skull, okay? So this is Daisy. I just want a tiny, tiny bit of a really bright, few real bright areas on here like you would see on slate on the side of the mountain. It's just got little areas where stuff kind of builds up and it's almost yellow. You could use a green to do this, but because my moon is going to be that really cool yellow color. Hey, Brooke, are you still on here? Did you see my Fright Night cookie yet? So I just want to add a little highlight that's going to tie the color of my moon, okay? So now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have to switch paper towels again in a minute because I don't want this going all over my, oh, good. So did you see this is our first cookie. This is Fright Night. So tonight we're going to sculpt this cool tree. Can you see my tree there, my twisted tree? We're going to sculpt a skull moon, and we're going to sculpt these really, let me pull them up there so you can see them. We're going to sculpt those cool bats. Isn't that fun? So you can see how much just this little bit of dry dusting. Now you just want to buff it in. Really careful. If you got too much on an area, just tap the cookie like I did down here at the bottom. Knock a little bit of that off. We don't want that much on there, right? But now let's buff it. Let's just buff it in. Again, you don't have to do this. It just adds so much when you're creating rock textures and things like that. Okay, isn't that cool? I mean, look, we really have a lot of dimension. It's brought out the crevices and all that. So let's see. I do need a little bit more Turkish Black. I meant to warn you that this might happen when you're using Those bats are cool, right? I like them too. So I'm going to pull out just a little bit more of the Turkish Black because when I did that shading and started buffing, I got those lighter colors over my cave entrance, and I really want my cave entrance to read solid black. So I'm just going to take a little more and go right over top. Now, if you want, you could use a marker. You could paint this part. I just don't want to introduce any more water to my cookie because it hasn't dried overnight, right? So I just want to be a little careful. So now I've got that nice dark entrance. By the way, not for nothing, but please remember this technique, because if you do tomb cookies at Easter time, you could do something beautiful with Easter cookies with this same technique. So this is not something that you can only use this one time a year. Learning how to do this and get the nice coloring on the rocks is something that is very beneficial. I am using Elite Color from the Sugar Art. Can you see that? Let me lift it. The Sugar Art. And this is Elite Colors, not Master Elites, guys. Elite Colors. So they work very much like petal dust, okay? A lot of you will have Bakel, so use those. I just happen to have these three out from another project, so that's why I use them. And now I have to be super careful because I can tell my cookie is definitely fragile up on the top. But once we reattach the skull moon, we'll be good to go. It'll all be nice and firm again, okay? Let me make sure my area is clean. I don't like sandy bits all over and getting on me when I'm working. How do you guys feel about that? Okay, so earlier today, I did tell you about this. This is a cool mold. It says Evil Ted. So look for eviltedsmith.com or look on Amazon under Evil Ted. This is the skull mold. If you don't want to hand sculpt this, I'm going to quickly show you how to use this because it's very low profile. They're not a deep mold where you can start creating your moon if you want to use this whole skull look, okay? So let's just move this to the side. So you've now done a little dry dusting. Do you feel good about that? Everybody that's working along with me tonight? I know several of you said you were going to try it while I was trying it. Now, a few months back, we did dry dusting and then we introduced Everclear to it. Remember, because we didn't want it to look matte or dusty and finish. We wanted it to like sink into the icing. So this is another version of that, but this one is all dry dusting. Okay, look, I remembered gloves on because we're going to dye some of the fondant and I don't want my hands to get all sticky. So we're going to start with this one. This is the best size. If you do end up picking up the mold, this is the best size for this, okay? But we're going to punch out. Let me see if I found, what did I use yesterday? Hold on. I'm going to use the same thing I used because I realized I didn't bring a cookie cutter to the house and I had to find just the right size to cut out my moon. Give me just a second. I used something that's here. I just don't remember what it was. No, I don't think it was that. Let me just look around as I'm working on this. I may have hand cut it though. That may be why the X-Acto knife was out. All right, there's just a lot going on, you guys. And 2 more kitchen cabinets got put in place today, so that was kind of interesting. All right, let's just pull a little of the white. I'm using the fondant. If you don't sculpt a lot or you're not familiar with this, I would recommend you start with straight fondant for this, okay? You can work your way up to modeling chocolate once you are better at getting things out of the molds and better with the sculpting part. But you'll get really frustrated if it's all too hot and all of that. And you see, I'm just warming up my fondant, okay? This skull is at its widest, it's 2.5, and at its tallest points, it's 3.5, but you don't need the whole skull. And this is really a cheap method. You don't even need to do this. I'm going to show you how to do this from scratch in a minute. But this will get you started if you're not comfortable with totally freehand sculpting, okay? It'll just get you going a little bit. Please rewatch the video if you came in late. All the information for how to get the form to fill out for your free swag bag, or just pull a Brooke. No, we're not. I'm not going straight to molten hot sugar yet. It would be beautiful on this cookie though. So I'm just getting it flat, you guys, in the mold, making sure I have enough. I'm going to press it from this side so I get a nice flat back. Make sure you watch from the beginning of the video tonight for how to get your information and where the link is to get your download form to get your free swag bag if you are attending Dallas Cookie Con in a few weeks. Okay, so you see I just rolled the mat off of that. Okay, now I'm going to show you. Let's put this back where it goes. I'm going to show you just size-wise in case you haven't baked your cookies yet. Size-wise, do you see? You could actually put the whole skull on here, but I really wanted the skull to look like the moon, okay? So given that, play with it and position it, right? Now what I need to do is I need to trim off the bottom. If you're going to use the mold to do this, this is how you'll start. You'll cut off the bottom layer of the teeth, and I'm just using an X-Acto knife and pulling it off. And I'm working on a piece of parchment paper. It's not a lot of pressure. You can see I'm not damaging anything. Now, I want these teeth to be really visible. So I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife because it's in my hand. If not, I could use a boo-boo stick or a scribe. But I want to really, the reason it's important to get this dimension when you're sculpting like this is because when we go to paint this with the yellow, and then before we do that, we're going to dry dust with some black to create the cracks and things. When we go to do that, we want that dimension to really pop out. So we need crevices. All right, so let's pull the cookie over again. We've kind of got the bottom rounded out now. So I want to just lay this and then kind of take a look where it's going to be coming off my cookie. Do you see what I mean? So I have this top part, right? And I want to keep it circular. So I'm just going to come across the top and take this top part off. So that's what I meant when I said a skull moon. We're going for the rounded full moon shape, but we want it to have the appearance of a skull because of the Fright night, right? So now what I'm going to do is just work my hands and get this. If I feel like there's a little too much anywhere, I'll take a little bit off and then just get this. It's easier for me to do this on parchment, and I'm just pulling my edges down to get enough where I can cut it to be rounded. Okay, I just want it to be rounded. If you have a little 3-inch cookie cutter, a round circle cookie cutter nearby, you could also use that. You see how I'm keeping on my scraps? There's nothing wrong with what I'm pulling off here. I'm just using my finger to tap it in. You could use your Dresden tool if you want to reshape this if you have that handy. I wanted to widen my eyeballs, so I did do that as well. I just flattened these out a little bit. You see how I got that more sunken in look because it's going to really show up once I add the Turkish Black. And I'm just going to pull this out a little. I want that really deep eye socket in the skull look. His nose, I want his nose to show up really good because we want the skull effect. So I'm just kind of widening the nose. You see that, how we did that? So it's going to look great once we add the Turkish Black. And then we're also going to be painting it in that nice yellow color to get that glow. All right, so let's just trim a little bit more off. I feel pretty good about how this looks. You guys like that? You see all the dimension? All right, but we're not done yet. Okay, let's take an X-Acto knife or a piece of sharp crumbled up aluminum foil. I'm going X-Acto knife because I've been using that. And all I want to do is make a couple divots in my fondant. No particular order. Can you see that? I'm just doing a little, so it looks like a cracked skull, right? Just in a couple places. It doesn't have to be fancy. If you really want your guy to be messed up, you can take this and actually maybe give him a bullet hole or something. You're just looking for ways to give him a little additional depth, some cracking. You can use your Dresden tool. Don't overthink this. That's all I can tell you is don't overthink it. You're going to be a lot more comfortable once you try it and try it off the cookie so that you're not getting worked up over making a mistake on your cookie, okay? So you see, we just added a little bit. Nothing major, okay? Let's go ahead and get our Turkish Black back out. We're going to use a smaller tip brush. One that's slightly damaged is fabulous. This is going to be dry dusting. I'm just using a little one. I'm going to pick some of this up. Let me get that white fondant out of the way because otherwise it's going to pick up that black dust, which in this case doesn't matter because the next thing we're going to do is our twisted tree and then the black bats. But it's better to have... it's better to make good habits that you do all the time, because just because it's okay on this cookie doesn't mean that will work on your next cookie. So let's put some of that Turkish Black into the cracks, a little bit into the bullet hole. And we're just using that same amount. Do you see? Like I did this one really dark because I made the crevices dark, but then I'm just using a little bit over here. Don't overthink it. We still have to paint this, so don't overthink it. All right, we're going to paint the yellow once it's on the cookie, though, so that we don't move it while it's wet. We don't want it getting all stretched out. And look, I'm just kind of dragging that out onto the edges of the skull for shadowing. And you can tell, you guys, I'm not being particular with this. Don't overthink it. You're going to have a lot more fun with this if you do not overthink it. Now, any place there's divots, holes, areas that we made, like the teeth, just work it into the pieces. You see, I'm just stamping it in there. And then I'm going to just do a little bit of buffing, not a lot because the fondant is wet. I want to see this hollowed part of his cheek and the skull bone here. So you see what we've done. I'm going to lift it up so you can see it. Let me lift him up, but I want to shake this off on the paper towel first because I don't want that to get on everything. So do you see how we just that, and you see how it's not perfect? It's not meant to be perfect. It's undershadowing for a very creepy moon that we're about to create, okay? Let me fold this over. Now I'm going to go back to my X-Acto knife, or actually let me show you how to do this with a thingamajiggy. It is fondant. So just go back and reinforce your teeth, right? Because it's going to split the fondant a little more and you're going to get another level of shadowing in those teeth because it splits the Turkish Black out a little bit. Do you see what I mean? You see what happens where it splits it a little bit more? Okay, so now let's bring this down here. Now grab something that you can put some Everclear in or vodka, just something little like this. I have a yellow. It doesn't matter what yellow. I'm using neon yellow. It can be gold. It can be yellow. Technically, you could do orange. I'm just going to put a little tiny bit. I hope there's enough in here. A little tiny squirt of this. And that brand is just Sunny Side Up Bakery. But honestly, the brand does not matter for what we're doing. I'm using Everclear. You can use vodka. I was supposed to go get some more of this today. And I got so excited about those pink suitcases, I forgot to go pick this up. And you don't need a lot. Okay. Maybe half a capful. We'll dilute it enough. You don't want too bright of a color, right? Because we're going for that creepy moon. So here's what we're going to do. Pick any of the brushes that you know you don't need to dry brush with if you're doing more cookies. Now, do you see how I have that blob? That gel's not dissolving, but I've got good color. I don't need to worry about dissolving the rest of that, that yellow color. I don't need to dissolve it. I'm not straining it to airbrush with. I am knocking a little bit of this Turkish Black out of my brush. Now, let's pull this down here. I'm still working on parchment. I just need a little bit of this color. I'm not technically painting. It's more like a watercolor wash, if you will, okay? Now, I want to dab it on a paper towel because I want to get familiar with how much liquid I'm adding to my cookie and how the other color that's already on the cookie is responding, okay? So we're just getting a base on the yellow and we're fanning out that Turkish Black to create more flowy shadows. Now, if this was dry fondant, it's going to take your color a lot better. So maybe tonight as a practice run and redo one in the morning. And don't leave water or the Everclear, I'm sorry, don't leave your Everclear sitting in the eye sockets. Pull all that extra out. Now, I'll show you how I got that cool shimmery moon in just a second. But what we're doing right now is using this, the Everclear with the Turkish Black. We're using it to fan out our shadows and thin them out a little bit, place the color where we want it, and we're adding just a little bit of a yellow undertone. If you want to start by dyeing your fondant yellow, you definitely can. I'm just trying to show you how to work from white so that you don't end up with a whole bunch of little bits left over at the end that are already in other colors, okay? All right, so this is pretty good. I want to take a little bit more off down here at his teeth. Just a little bit of the black. I'm pulling it to the edges. Oh, and I did mean to transfer this to the cookie already. So let's do that before we go to dry dusting, okay? So with my gloves on, I'm going to get him from underneath. And let's transfer him up onto the cookie. We just need the tiniest bit of water or liquid to attach him to our cookie. And he's going here, so I'm going to put a, plus the fondant is super soft, so it's going to press into the cookie really easily. So I'm just putting a little bit of the color underneath. We're going to get him onto the cookie. We're going to use our fingers to just smooth those edges over to make sure he's attached. Again, it's a skull. If it leaves a little imprint, it's not going to matter. No one is going to notice. So we just want to pull that down to where we roughly want our moon to be, okay? And we want to make sure that it sits or adheres on the cookie really well. So that's what we're going for right now with this. Okay, and I'm just making sure with my fingers that I'm keeping a nice rounded shape. All right, now let's go back and pull out our daisy. We have 2 steps left to do. Let me move this. So you have to work fast when you're doing this, when you're doing it the way I'm about to show you, because you added that liquid, which made your fondant tacky, and it gave you a yellow undertone. Now we're going to pull back on put our daisy back out, and we're going to use our large brush that we were using earlier for color. We're going to pull some more of this out. Do not go directly to the cookie. In this case, you definitely have to like grind it into the bristles. Do you see? So that you're not putting too much on there. And then you want to dust. And do you see what's happening? Because the cookie is damp, it's taking the color fabulous. And I can buff it right when I'm putting it on. And it's still got all of that cool shadowing underneath with the black. It's not erasing it. It's just highlighting right on top of all of that. Okay. And I'm also not adding too much color that I have to worry about dusting off, because when you're going to a wet surface like this with the fondant, too much of this color, it's almost, you can do it if you're patient and do it in layers, but it's almost impossible to get it all off the cookie. All right, now around the edge, use your yellow and do what I just did and make it hazy so it kind of has that neon look. You want to do that all the way around your moon. So any place you have cookie exposed or that ledge, you just want to do that little hazy, almost like a neon effect, like the moon's glowing, that moon color is bouncing off onto the surface, okay? Now make sure you work a little bit down into the nose. The nose is tricky sometimes because if you leave too much liquid in there, then it's hard to, it gets real sticky and it's hard to get that out. But do you see just that little bit of what we just did? How we got, and let's take, if your brush is, if it's tacky and your brush leaves behind a bristle or something, just pull that off with some tweezers. You can see them real easily if you're using dark brushes. All right, so we've got that all buffed in. Around the cookie part, we've got it buffed in, so we have a nice glow around the moon. Again, we're doing a spooky moon, but you could do a regular moon. You could do a man in the moon baby shower cookie, like lots of ways to use this technique. All right, then we're going to come back and we're going to use that brilliant sparkle. All right, so try to get all your color out as best you can on here. Okay, you see what I'm doing there? I'm just going to pick up the brilliance. I'm not knocking any of the brilliance off, okay? I'm going to tap it in different areas around the cookie so that it's spread out. Okay, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to buff. So I get that cool shimmery You see how I'm working in layers and why it was important to get it damp with that very light yellow undertone? Because when I went back to buff with the dark yellow, when I did that, what happened is it gave me natural shading without mixing up a bunch of different colors or taking a really long time to paint. Now, if you get to doing this and you just really like here, I got a little too much brilliance. I don't want that. I do want my moon all glowy like this, but I don't want that much on the cookies. So what I'm going to have to do is pull out the Turkish Black and darken that up a little bit. A dead moon. I made a dead moon. This is my skull moon. I really like him. He's fun. So I'm going to darken up just right here where that brilliance is because it's really hard to pull it back off. You're better off at this point if you just mute it. Right? Add a little darker color there and kind of, it won't take it totally off, but it'll hide it, and it'll hide it enough that it doesn't bother you. Okay? You guys are liking this. I'm seeing good comments. Now, one thing I would do is take a totally separate brush that has not been involved in any of this at this point, and I just dust off your cookie. Anywhere you have any kind of extra before we start attaching fondant. We don't want clumps of powder or unbuffed luster dust laying on the cookie because it's going to make it harder to attach your fondant. I hope that makes sense. You need to get all the loose bits and particles off the cookie. All right, now this is really your last chance to highlight and shade your cave. This is it, okay? Now, if you want to, at this point, this is when you need to darken this up. You can see all the nice texture we have there. I'm going to set all the brushes I've used off to one side because I do not want to accidentally pick them up and use them again in a clean color before they've been cleaned. And I'm also going to put my tools over here, except for my Dresden tool, because we need that for the bats. So you can see roughly what's going on here, okay? Let's get these guys moved. That should be, we're going to do a little bit of dry dusting on our tree, but not a lot. So if you need to get that out of the way, you can. But I do want to clean this up just so it's the camera's not having to pick up so many colors. Let's clean this up a little bit and focus on just this. So now this is where you have to decide, do I want ghosts in here? Do I want to use candied ghosts? Do I want to, like these little guys that I showed you earlier? Do you want to use the fondant ones? Like I'm just going to use these for now because we used the other kind earlier. So that way I'll have two different cookies to photograph tomorrow. But if you want to do the fondant ones, this morning I told you this mold, if you ordered this ahead from the suggested extra supplies, you could make 3 of these. All right, we're just going to attach what we have with. So I just made 3 of these little ghosts, and that's how I did this cookie. And before I attached the ghost to the cookie, I dry dusted them with brilliance. Okay, that way they would glow in the dark, because the white ghosts and that brilliance on the moon, it does glow in the dark under, I'm sorry, it glows under black light. I think we really have to work on getting that terminology correct. I think a lot of people say glow in the dark, and glow in the dark means it just glows when it's dark. And what they really mean is glows under black light. Although I'm investigating a new product that should glow. All right, so let's get our ghosts on, and then I'm going to show you how to sculpt the skull from scratch if you want to do a little moon. Okay, and you can, these are just candies. I'm just attaching them with royal icing. These ghosts in particular are no harder than Smarties. So these are no problem on the teeth. Yes. No, I would not. You can attach it later with royal icing, Kelly, but when you're sculpting, I find it's easier to attach the fresh fondant to the cookie while you're working, and that way you can mold it to the cookie. So you can do it either way, but if I needed to do like 48 of these, obviously I'd have to do them ahead of time. I couldn't just sit and do this cookie after cookie. They'd have to be done, and then I would have to make allowances on the cookie where it could be attached flat. Like here, we attached the teeth over the rocks because it gave us a little more dimension. It also gives us a little more back for behind our tree. So we're just going to attach these little ghosts, okay? And then what we have left to do is the tree. We're not using a mold at all for the tree. If you have a tree mold, you can use it. But what you're going to find is it's easier to make your tree to fit your cookie than to find a mold to fit the cookie. So I'm going to show you how to do that from scratch too. Then we're going to make 2 baby bats from this mold, and I'm going to show you how to get a 3D effect with their wings. And then we're going to hand sculpt one, because the hand sculpted one, the technique I'm going to show you, if you are a patient person, it also makes beautiful pine cones. So it's going to be good for fall cookies. So a lot of things I'm teaching you tonight are things that you can use across the board all year long in completely different seasons. Okay. So before we go back to sculpting just the skull, since I have this out and ready, I don't want it to get too dry. I do have a little bit of black fondant left from earlier. So let me do my 2 bats real quick and get them out. And then we're going to do our skull from scratch. Now, what I'm going to show you with the skull from scratch is just on white fondant, and then how to do all of the indentions and things on the skull. And then you'll follow this part that we already did for coloring and all of that. You can also make all these pieces, guys, as royal icing transfers, but on the Halloween cookies, you just really don't get the detail by doing royal icing transfers. But if you're cooking for profit and you don't want the, I guess, the wow factor of a piece with all of these different techniques, then yes, you absolutely can save yourself a ton of time by doing royal icing transfers too, okay? All right, while I'm putting this in the mold, let's see. Okay, I got Kelly's all good. Charlotte's good. Is everybody excited that we're doing Halloween cookies? I think most of you really like the Halloween. All right. Good. Let's roll it out. I'm just rolling the mold. This is why I like these particular molds. They're super flexible, so it's real easy. I know, I just love doing this kind of stuff. All right, so let's re-roll this little piece because we're going to use it to make the big bat. Or do you guys just want to go ahead and make the bat and we'll come back to the skull? Like a couple of you are like, bats. All right, let's do the bat real quick, okay? Just because I think that I think you guys will enjoy this. All right. So let's pull. I've got just a very, you can see in my hand, it's a very small piece. It's not even as big as my thumb. You don't need a lot. The bats are going to be up in this area taking flight. So let me pull a fresh piece of parchment here so I can work on that. Okay, now let's roll this out like a log a little bit because we want all the black has to match. So we need to get our whole bat out of this little piece, okay? So using my Dresden tool, I'm just going to lop about 1/3 of it off on the end. I'm just going to pull that off, okay? And then I've got, this is going to become my bat body and head. So let's re-roll it. Okay. We've gone to a circle. You use the center of your hand. It's not any more complicated than this. Just get a little bit elongated. Set it on your cookie to make sure it's not going to be too big. That looks just right to do a big bat. Put it back on your parchment and then just use your Dresden tool. And all you're doing is separating the head and the body. I just want a little separation. It does not need to be perfect, okay? In fact, let me lift it and show you how imperfect it is. I'm just literally making like a segmented body. By the way, this is the same way you do the body for a spider. So get creative, okay? If you want spiders, do spiders. I'm teaching you bats tonight, but we will be doing a spider in the next couple of weeks. So I want it still attached, but I want a segment. So you see how I've got 2 nice segments? 2/3 of the fondant on this side, 1/3 up here. Using the ball end of my fondant tool, I'm just going to make a little separation up here. It's not going to stay this way. I'm about to hack it up, but I want to start out at least with the 2 points like a bat would have, the little ears, okay? So I'm just getting a little separation. And you see doing that motion also kept my segment separate, but it pushed it back together. Now it's flat. I want a good flat surface to attach to the cookie. And it needs to be soft fondant because we're going to put it on top of the rocks. And I have this parchment, my rock using the parchment paper for the cave came out fabulous tonight, okay? So we're going from here. Now watch, it's not any more complicated than this. You guys are going to make it complicated, and you're going to say I said it was simple and you can't do it, but you can. You just have to practice. If you mess it up, your fondant is soft, re-roll it. But seriously, watch this, so easy. I'm taking the tip of my super sharp scissors and I'm just making little cuts all over the body. Let me see if I can lift it. I normally would hold this in my hand or I'd put it on a toothpick, but I don't think you'll be able to see it that way. No particular, I'm going to have to hold it though, guys, because I can't get it on the side there and I don't want to cut my finger. So do you see, I'm just making these little, and it's making them stand up. So let's do the side because you're going to see that. So you can cut one direction and go right back and cut the other direction, because what you're doing is you're making it fuzzy like a bat is. This is just making those cool fuzzy texture. Here he looks hairy. Well, and let's face it, they're pretty. When they're one of them screeching and it's near you, you're not going to check out the texture. But as I mentioned to you, one of them got caught in, a little bat got caught in the windshield wipers of my car. When I was in my car, it was outside my car on the windshield wipers, and it got stuck. And so I got to watch it until my husband came and got that thing off my car, because I was just convinced it was a vampire bat and I was not getting out of the car. So he got it loose and it went somewhere and either lived or died. I don't know, but he and I were not friends. And I was not terribly upset about it. All right, look how cool the body is. Can you see? And all I did was nick him with scissors all over the place. See? All right, now let's turn him and try to carefully hold him so we don't squish all that cool work. And let's do the same thing on the head. And you can see, guys, I'm literally going in at this at all different angles. Now, if you were doing a pine cone, later I'm going to teach you how to do a pine cone. Not tonight, in another class or another cookie. It is coming up, though. I'm going to show you how to do, it's basically the same technique, but more orderly. That's why you're practicing the very disheveled cutting tonight. It will be more orderly when we create the pine cones, okay? Okay. So I just want him just really, now if you squish a little bit of it, it's not going to hurt it. You can also do this if you don't want to take the time to get these very distinct separations. You can use a piece of crumpled up aluminum foil, uncrumple it, crumple it back, and you can do that texture on here if you want to, okay? I'm not opposed to that. It doesn't bother me at all to do that. You can if you want to. And I was just looking to see, I already got rid of the Everclear bit. It was already taken out of here to be cleaned. So I'm going to flip this over and just add a little royal icing to him. This will attach just as well, maybe in my case better, because I made very, very bumpy rocks tonight. So what I'm going to do, because I have to put a little pressure on him, I'm going to put the pressure on him where he's already segmented between the head and the body. And that using that color of royal icing is great, because if any of it squishes out, it's just going to look like it's part of the rock. So I'm using where I have to re-segment him to my advantage. And then if I see, oh, I got a little area I didn't do something on the way I wanted it to, just go back and hit it real quick. Now, obviously, this is only going to work with little sharp scissors, like sewing scissors. These are the scissors I use to trim the tip of my tipless bags. Now let's lift this so you can see it attached to the cookie. So you can see easily you could go right from here. If you did a more rounded body, you could definitely turn him into a spider, but you can see all the detail, right, that we just created. All right, so this little bit, the third, remember we measured it out. It was all the same color. Now what we need to do is just heat that up a little bit. Kathy, I find it very difficult to do that, because then either the royal icing gets in my tweezers and then I get that color mixed in, or the water, it doesn't set up fast enough by using water. You could maybe do that with edible glue, But for me, it's easier to turn that little guy all around. You guys do whatever works best for you. I'm definitely not one of those teachers that says this is the only way to do this, okay? So if you find another way, that's what you should work with. Now, this is my little bit. I'm going to run it long. Okay, do you see I'm just back and forth running it long? Then I'm going to use a little fondant roller, and I'm just going to flatten this out. It can be super, super thin. This is not one of those deals where it has to be really thick, okay? Just thin it out. What I'm going for here, use your scissors to measure it, but I know that I need wings about this long. You see that? So I have about that much on this side and about that much on that side. I'm just going to cut my fondant in half. And I need 2 wings that are going to come to points like the shape of the cookie. I'm going to use my X-Acto knife, holding my fondant so that it doesn't tear because it's soft. I just heated it up with all that rolling, right? I want to create that wavy look underneath, so I want wider, right? And I'm going on in my own frame, I want wider, and I'm going on a curve, and I want to come to a point at the end. And I want my wing to be longer than I want it to end up being on my cookie because we're going to ruffle it. Don't overthink this. I promise you, if you don't overthink it, you're going to have fun with this. So let's flip this because it's easier for me to hold it that way. I'm going to come from here and come over to a point. And I'm just light pressure so that I don't tear it. Because if I tear it, I have to roll it again, flatten it again. It's just better to be patient than to rush through this. So now I want to wide here, come to a point here, okay? You could cut it with scissors if you want to. I like to do it with the X-Acto knife, but you know, you absolutely could do this. Look, you could pick it up and trim depending on how crusted it is. You could do that. But I prefer to use scissors to do trimming when I need something to be super precise, okay? I don't really like to do that when for things like this. So I want my wings to work with my cookie in shape. So here's what we're going to do. I need to put just a little bit of royal icing up next to the body on both sides. We're going to work quick, so I'm just going to put a tiny bit. If I still had my water here, I would be doing water right now. I'm going to use my Dresden tool and pick this up. Do not overthink this. Be closer to the end that's going to attach to the body. Attach it, right? And then come back up on the top and just use your Dresden tool and push it in there a little bit. That's all you got to do. Don't overthink it. Push it in there. Make sure it's touching the icing. Now at this point, make sure none of the icing's on your Dresden tool. Just clean it off on the paper towel. Now watch. This is so easy. Please don't make this hard on yourselves. Go underneath. Pick it up. Push it down over your Dresden tool. Make a ripple. Attach it to the cookie. The fondant's very soft, so it's attaching very well on its own. Underneath. Make a ripple. Do you see that? Pull this out. Attach it. It's not complicated. Don't overthink it. I promise you, once you practice this a couple times, this is going to be easy peasy for you. This is also a great way to do ruffles on a dress. Now, I do want these to be slightly angled if I want it to look more like a real bat wing. So now what I'm going to do is come back in and kind of pull these to a point. This is the beauty of the hand sculpting, that you get to actually work on the cookie creating this, okay? So, and I've got a little bit too much of a tip there. I'm just going to knock that off using my Dresden tool. Just cut it off, okay? And make my little areas here, and everything's attached. Let me lift that and show you. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Can you see that? Okay, but I need to turn it because I'm right-handed. So I need to work this direction. I'm going to flip my wing because I want that curved part on the bottom. Just get it to hang over top of your Dresden tool a little bit. It doesn't need to be attached. Just let it hang over so it's easy to move. Get it placed up next to the bat where it's touching the icing. Then come up on the top. Use your Dresden tool and just push that in ever so slightly under the body. If any icing oozes out, this is when you take it off using your Dresden tool, okay? Just pull it out of there. Now, this is it. You ready? Watch again. Underneath and lift it to make your first ripple. Use your finger to kind of place it on that first one. Do you see? Pull it out. Then at the angle, look, I didn't get enough of the icing off. Okay. I want that angle for the wing, like a bat wing would look like, for instance, on this. See this? Okay, on the ones that came out of the mold. Use that as your guide. We want to go underneath again, over, use the Dresden tool and press it down. Now I'm going to flip it back around because it's easier for me to think this way. I want my wing spread out, right? So we want it to be ending up curved like this, right? We want those segments to look like that. Then I'm going to use the Dresden tool, this end of the Dresden tool, and I'm going to push up on both sides into the fondant to get that look of a bat wing on the bottom. It's lifted so you have plenty of space to work with when you're doing that, right? It's these little things at the end that give you that extra detail. And he's really creepy looking. Now, I do need to put a little more icing under the wing. If I had put water on, I'd be done, but he needs a little more. I just feel like that's too dry and too loose that he could come off. So let's reposition that, okay? There we go. I like that much better. And then I'll knock that little tip off because I kind of want it to just disappear into the rock. So let's lift that up so you guys can see. You see him and his wings? If you want to use some Turkish Black and a little bit of dogwood, you can really liven this up. Do you guys want to see that? You want to see the dogwood? I'll show you what it looks like with the dogwood, but you have to go sparingly, okay? This is not something you do a lot of. Again, I'm using a roughed up brush, a little bit of color. And this, I want to use as thin a brush as possible. This happens to be the only other clean one in my workspace right now. But I want as thin as possible because I want to go down into all those little cuts. Okay, I don't want the whole thing to turn this highlighted color. I just want to use the luster dust to highlight the dimension that I added to him. And you can see it. I'm not sure if you can see it really well on camera. I'll pick it back up so you can see it. But you can see it going down in there. But an even thinner tipped brush would be best for this. If you get too much of this on, then just go back and dust with the Turkish Black over the top, okay? But the creepier, the better, in my opinion, on these, of course. All right, so let's lift this. So you can see now just that little bit of dusting. You can see a lot of the texture we created, okay? So let's go back with our baby bats. We just did these a few minutes ago in fondant. Let's just put a little icing in the center, not a lot, and the same color as our rocks. Let's just drop that down, okay? And I'm going to use my Dresden tool to kind of work the wings like we just did with the other one. Let's work the wings and position the bat so he's got a little heft on him, right? We want those wings to look like he's coming off the cookie. And by pressing in between those segments in his wing, that's what's attaching him to the cookie, that little bit of icing, okay? So same thing on the other one, tiny bit of icing on the body, okay? And I'm working in threes. I've got 3 ghosts. I've got 3 bats. Now I'm going to put this one a little over top of the other one so I can show you what that looks like. Because this is so cool. It's got so much dimension. You can play with this and create all kinds of scenes with this. Now I'm using my Dresden tool to press down between those like accordion pleats on him, like a cupcake liner. That's how I'm attaching it to the cookie. Now, let me show you something. You don't have to do this. I just find that it adds more detail to the cookie. Let me lift it and show you. So you see how they're attached? Now, this you can work because the body is all on top of the cookie on these little molds just because of the way the molds are made. You can just go and cut that on the cookie. You don't have to get under the sides or anything on this one because it's so tiny. They're not as high. These little bat molds actually have a super cute little bat face. If you want to leave it, the detail is there for a nose, for eyes. It's really cute. So if somebody gets super up close on this cookie, they're going to see that little face. All right, so let's just make sure he is where we want him to be. Let's take off any icing that's too light. And now our bats are done. Okay, and we've got our ghost done. We did our ghost tonight with candy, but I told you earlier you can use those same ghosts from the mold, from the suggested supplies. Make 3 little ghosts and attach your ghost. Now I did one with candy, one with the fondant. I like the fondant ones better, but if I had to do a bunch of these fast, I'd be doing it with candy. It would be a lot easier and quicker and more cost effective. Getting the lid back on my X-Acto knife just so I don't hurt myself. All right, now let's scoot this over and let's do a sculpted skull, the skull moon from scratch, okay? Now, this is also, yeah, these 2 pieces should do it. This is also going to kind of be how you want it to be, okay? So you don't have to do it this exact way. I'm just going to show you points to line it up, and then you guys sculpt your little hearts out. All right, let's get these mixed up. I'm working 2 pieces together. That's why I'm doing this ribbon effect on here, okay? Just using all my little pieces here. I'm still looking for whatever I used earlier to make the circle. I have, again, done so much working on the kits today. Sometimes you lose track of what you use when you do these things. All right. Now, I'm just going to use I've got a nice circle. It's about 2 times the size of my thumb. We're not going to end up with all of this on the cookie, but I start out with this because I want it rounded. So I'm using the center part of my hand, and I'm cupping it over it. I'm going to turn it a few times. Okay, so I'm getting a flat back, but I'm using the edge of my hand to pull this down. And I get, you know what, I'm just going to do this one totally free form. I know how big my cookie is, so I'm looking at that off to the side. I know that I want it rounded, so the palm of your hand's the easiest way to do that. Then we'll attach it. If we were attaching it to the cookie, we'd use an X-Acto knife to trim it. So let's just go through the steps of marking this off. So pull it off here, hold it above your cookie and make sure, oops, let's come over here. Pull it off your parchment, hold it above your cookie where you want it. Make sure it's large enough. If it's not large enough, just keep doing what I just did. Palm of your hand. On the outer edges is the only place I'm putting pressure because my hand is cupped in an arch, okay, to round it out. Okay, I got a little too much of a hump there, so I'm gently just rocking that back and forth, but that's perfect. Circular enough, right? It's enough. Don't overthink it. Now, let's use our Dresden tool. Rounded ball end, and then my pointy end. That's how we're going to accomplish all this. And what we want to do is we want to come about 2/3 down, and we want to make just a pinhole because we want our nose to go there, okay? And we know that on the skull, it comes down like from a point and then it kind of spreads out. So we're going to make 3 holes so that we remember what we're working towards. That's going to be our nose. We're going to connect that and connect that, okay? Then we're going to use our X-Acto knife down here, and we're going to just notch it, not all the way through. And actually, you know what? Let me just show you how to do it with a boo-boo stick, since I showed you already how to do it with the X-Acto. If you want to do it with the boo-boo stick, you basically follow this line where you made your nose, make a little mark, follow this line, make a little mark, find center, and then just start notching a bunch of little teeth. I mean, you can make a lot of big teeth. I like it with little teeth because I like that Turkish black in the grooves. And it's soft fondant, so you have time to play with it. Okay? Meaning if you don't like the layout of the original teeth you put down, then change it. It's not a big deal. So I've got teeth cut. I'm going to use my Dresden tool, and I'm going to work this up a little bit. I don't want a perfect circle because I'm making a skull. If I was doing man in the moon, I'd leave it, but I'm not. So let's turn this over, come straight over. Let's put a little cheek indentation. Do you see how I'm doing that? Up into the fondant and then just working it back and forth. So I've got my skull already forming, and the bottom part of the jaw is not part of the skull because we want it rounded. That's why it's like that. So using the ball end, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to roll it back up to the point. Okay. Start there, roll it back up to the point. Now I have my nice deep nose indentation like you'd see on a skull. Let me lift it up so you can see it. Okay. If you don't like it, just set it down in, go again. Okay. You can make that work as much as you want to. All right, now we need to mark for the eyes, and we want very sunken eyes because it's supposed to be a skull moon, or as Camille called it, a dead moon. So let's come up this just a little bit. This is going to be the corner, the most corner area of each of the eyes. And we don't want to go further than this. And coming 2/3 of the way over, go up 1/8 of an inch and down 1/8 of an inch. Can you kind of see your layout there for your socket? Okay, so same thing over here. Over, then come over 2/3, up 1/8, down 1/8. You've got the biggest part. Now, hopefully your fondant is soft enough that it's not scooting all around on you. And then what you want to do is start working with your ball tool just gently, right? Because we don't want to blow out the outer rim of our shape. So gently, we just want to start working to make that little eye socket. Don't overthink it. Someone's overthinking it right now that's trying to make this. Just play with it. Now, if your fondant's sticky, you're not going to be enjoying this project. So just let it set out and crust a little bit. It doesn't matter if it's ripply or crusty because it's a skull. So it can have lots of cracks. So did you see what I just did? Okay, now let's do the other side. I'm going to flip it around because I'm right-handed. Don't be afraid to flip what you're working on to suit whether you're right-handed or left-handed, okay? Or even where your lighting's better, what you can see better. So working with my Dresden tool upside down, I start here and rock it this way towards the outside, rock it this way, rock it this way. And now I'm just going to gently start using that ball part to stretch that opening over to the side. Okay. Again, being gentle to push the fondant around to create the socket so that I'm not blowing out my shape. Do you see my shape still looking good? Okay. Now I'm just kind of running it in there to smooth it out. You don't have to. It's a skull. It can be rough. Got it? Let's come back and look at the two eye sockets together. This one needs to be hollowed out a little bit more to match. Okay. Now, from this point, you could just follow the beginning part of the video. You basically have the same thing as if you bought the mold. Don't be afraid to use the molds, okay? But you basically have the same thing here as if you did the mold. So practice. If you hate this, roll it up and make something else. You can turn it. We're about to turn it into our tree. But also don't forget, at this point, you would then add the bullet hole, right? If we want to put a bullet hole in the skull, this is where we'd add our bullet hole. We would use our X-Acto knife at this point, and we would add the hash marks for a scar, like a cracked skull. And we just work to make them uneven so that they take the Turkish black really well. Same thing over here. You just add those little rough areas, okay? And then follow the original part of the video if you did it by hand. So everybody good? Any questions? We're good? Because I'm about to destroy him. I better take a picture with my phone real quick and then I'll destroy him, okay? So many times, you guys, I destroy these things and then I'm like, oh, I should have taken a picture first. Let's grab a picture tonight. Okay, so I'm going to turn him into a tree. Are you ready for him to be the tree? All right. I want him. This should make, I might need a little bit more. I'm going to put a little bit more with this because I'm about to do a marble effect. And if you don't have enough when you do, Bev, you like him? If you don't have enough when you create a marble effect, when you're doing a tree to make it look like tree bark, it's really hard to go back and make it match later. So is everybody with me that wants to see how to do the tree? You now know how to do the moon. And now what we're going to do is work on our tree. Is everybody with me? You cool on the bats, you know, you can go back and watch that, or you can use the molds. You know, there's 2 sizes of bats on here. If you don't want to do this big hand sculpted one, just mix these sizes and layer them and lighten your fondant so you have different shades of gray and black for your bats, and it'll still look super good. Okay, it'll still look great. All right, we don't need our rolling pin anymore, so I need to get a few things out of the way because I don't think well when all this stuff is lying around like this. Now, here's where we're at. The only coloring I need now is I need some brown. So let me show you how to do this if you're not familiar with this. Get this all good and mixed up. Take half of it, okay? I use gel to do mine. I never have any trouble with this, okay? I'm not even squeezing. I'm literally just touching it to it. If you feel like your color's a little dry, oops, see, I squeezed it. I shouldn't have done that. It's too much. Let me blot some of that off. Do you see there's too much there? I'm going to blot a little bit off on my paper towel. All right. Now, what I want to do with this, I want to turn it in on itself so it's kind of being absorbed. Now, I need to get the whole thing. Do you see how it's already streaking? Give you any ideas for Christmas mantle places? Just saying. Teaching you all kinds of stuff for different holidays, and I don't even know if you know it. So I've got this one, a nice light shade. All right, I want to set that down. I don't want to do it too much. I like all that stuff that's in there. Now I need to come back. I need this next one to be a little darker. So I'm going to do a little bit more brown. I don't want to do so much that my fondant gets tacky, though. Do you see what I've got there for brown? And I want a smidge of black, tiniest little tap of black, because I need this to go just a little bit darker. So I'm just going to tap. I'm just cleaning off the gel off the black lid. Fold it in on itself so that the color doesn't wind up all over your gloves. You see how clean my gloves are? If you fold it in on itself, a little twist, and then start doing the marbling. Try to keep the color in the fondant off your gloves or fingers. Right? Can you see it's darker already because of that little bit of black that's in there? Okay. All right. So it's a little darker than this one. You see, different shading. Still marbled. Let's get them both about the same. Now, let's give it a twist. I put them together and I'm giving it a twist. I'm folding it, and I'm just going to do this a couple of times. That's it. I don't want to do more than that, okay? See? I'm going to snap off about 2/3 of it, and I'm going to give it a quick roll. I told you this would be easy. It just takes time, and you have to know the order of the steps, and you have to be willing to play. So a little thinner at the top, thicker at the bottom. Watch how we make that cool bottom, right? Okay. Now, and please rewatch the video because I really want you guys to enjoy this because we're going to be doing a lot with this during our Halloween kit. And we're going to be doing a lot of these same textures and techniques with our limited edition Christmas kit and with our Christmas kit. So all of these things, start practicing on the cookies that can look really bad on. All right, so now we want to do this on our cookie, right? Do you see how I made the bottom of the cookie where I've got like the stumps, the roots that would come out and go into the yard, right? All right, so at the bottom, you want to cut right in the center. You want to cut a little bit over here, and you want to cut a little bit over here. Don't overthink this. You see what I've done? Okay, now on this large one that's coming out off the tree, you basically want to blunt cut that. You got to get rid of some of that fondant, okay? And this one, you want to blunt cut it. Do you see? Okay. Now, my tree, I should have showed you that, but when I was rolling it, I paid really good attention to how tall my tree was getting because I wanted it to come up onto the face of the moon because I want some of the branches to come over. So now what I'm going to do is this is very soft, so it's sticking really well. Now I want my tree to be kind of bunched up, right? You see how I'm placing that? It's very flexible. So down here, I want to use my boo-boo stick, and I just want to go where I cut that groove and lift that up. And I'm only using a boo-boo stick, okay? Let me zoom in a little. I think you'll feel better if you see this up close. Sometimes when people are teaching, it's really hard to see it if you're not like on top of it. If you see it in person, it's a whole different arena. So for just right now, let's get really close, okay? I'm just using a boo-boo stick to do this, and the fondant's very soft, so I didn't even have to attach anything to it, okay? Let's come back over here. So all I'm doing is making indentions and making lines, and then I want to twist it a little bit, right? Because I want it to look like a gnarly root. This is not a normal tree. This is a graveyard tree. Okay? See? Now down here, what I want to try to do, I want to separate this, but I want to bring this, I want to make it elongated. Okay? I want it to be like in the front part here. That's all I did with the boo-boo stick. I'm going to take this. I'm going to come to the side. Okay? And I'm going to hold my finger here because I want to keep it high. I don't want to press this one down. I want to keep it high so it matches with the height of the tree I've got going. And if you need to thin that a little, then just work it to where it is more rounded. Just a little bit of smoothing, okay? So let's get that root all set. Let's take it all the way to the side of the cookie and then use the boo-boo stick to just cut it off at the edge here. Okay? Now here, I want this to be separate. Now this one, you see how tall it is? Hold your finger here, and using your boo-boo stick, you're just grooving it. And remember, you've also got all the cool texture from where you just created the marbling. So you've got texture from that. Now we want to round this one a little bit. And we want to round this one. This one I think needs to come down and twist a little to get our height back. You see what I'm doing? It's just playing around with it until you're happy with how it looks. Then you're going to start working upward on your tree. You've already got good marbling going on. Trying not to put my hand in your camera lens there. So you've already got good marbling. We're working up the tree because I've got shading in there so we don't have to do a lot of coloring. And I want it to be twisted. And let me show you this so I don't forget to do it. Earlier, someone asked me if it had a face in it. You can definitely add a face. This is when you would add the face. I'm not going to add a face, but I am going to add a knot, okay? Because I'm going to go back and add a little Turkish black to it. So using the ball end of my Dresden tool, I'm just going to put a little knot and kind of hollow that out. See? You want me to do it again? You want another one? It doesn't really need another one because it's a small tree, but how about I just show you? Let's go up the tree a little bit more, and I'll use the other end of the Dresden tool and show you how to do one at the top. Now, remind you, we haven't added branches yet, you guys, but you have to work on the trunk while it's soft so that it naturally attaches to the cookie. And the marbling and the fondant, in my opinion, is very important to make a tree like this because you see what a simplified technique we're using to make our tree, right? To make our the bark of the tree. Can you see that? Let me just pull it down so you can see it. Okay. You guys still with me? So up here, if you want this to be like pointier and spindlier, you would just kind of adjust it with your, let me show you here. You would adjust it by using your boo-boo stick and using that as something to press against it. And then you can elongate it a little bit more. But again, you can't come back to this in an hour. You got to commit and get going. So does anybody want to see, you like it, Sally? Do you want to see another knot? How about we go up here and make a baby knot? Really, a tree like this, if it was hollow, it's probably got like where a limb is off of it. And this is where animals would start to nest as the tree starts to rot. So I'll show you in just a second how you make that work to your advantage. But let's go up here and just do a little hole, okay? And using my Dresden tool, I'm just kind of shaping it. And you saw how I kept my finger anchored on the side? So look at your tree. Now that we're not done. You like that? Now, really, if I promise you, I probably only made I don't know. I've made a lot of these now, but before I got it to where I was like happy with how I was creating it and realized that the marbling and the two shades of marbling together and the way you do it like you pull taffy Once I found that out and didn't go to solid colors, that added something. Then going 3D on the cookie, that adds something. And then if you are willing to work on this on parchment paper and not wait till the night you're creating the spooky cookie, you can actually use these trees on other projects later. And just hint, hint, if you did some of these and ran a bamboo skewer or a dowel rod into them, you could use these later in our graveyard that we're going to make. Hint, hint. So if you want to practice, your practice is not going to be wasted. Let me show you something else here so that I don't forget. You don't have to do this, but you will enjoy it, the look of it if you do it. What did I do with that little paintbrush? I don't know if this is small enough, so I hope I don't wreck this, okay? Let's just pull a little bit of our Turkish black. I'm going to buff it. We want to go into the hole, not on the sides or anything else. We want to just go right into that hole, and we want to get some Turkish black in there. Look what's happening right on camera, right before you. Right before your eyes, the magic of cookies. Look. You see what I mean? Just these little tiny things. Once you learn how to do them, you're going to love them. And Halloween's a great place to practice, because if something's messed up, you can say you did it on purpose. All right, now I think that's all we need in the black. I personally really like adding a little brown dust to this. So I am going to come back and use my chocolate elite color. You can use any brown petal dust that you have. I just want a little tiny bit. Do you want me to put a face on here, Bev? Somebody in the group is doing a face on something else, and so I didn't want to do a face because they're doing a face. But if you're on here and you want to do a face, you tell me if it's okay with you. I'll go ahead and add the other eye. But right now, I'm just going to dust with some chocolate, okay? Now, I've got all these cool colors going on, so don't overdo it. You don't want to cover everything, and mainly you want to stay in the crevices and the corners where there'd be shadows. If you're going to add this in, and add it in brown, not black. Okay, let's get up in here. And on these roots, your roots should always be darker than the top part of the tree. I mean, that's just how it would really be if it was a real tree. Fully aware it's not a real tree, guys, but I'm also trying to make things read like when you look at them, I want them to register with your brain automatically as what it's supposed to be. Now, if any of your fondant feels loose, just use your Dresden tool, pick it up a smidge, run some water under there. Somebody in here, I think it might have been Priscilla, and I don't want to steal her idea because she's doing something with the face, but we totally could do a face. Look at that dimension. Now, we still have to do the branches. I almost called them arms, because I feel like my tree's alive. Okay. And let me show you proportionately to the other thing you want to watch for. Priscilla, are you the one that was doing a face? You're doing a face? Because I totally don't want to steal your idea. And if I do it on here, you realize 15 people are going to do it. So I just want to show you how to make knots. All right, let me show you this, okay? Okay, I'll do it. I'll put it in there. So you can have a Sleepy Hollow tree. So do you see that I have the trees much thicker at the bottom than at the top? So not only did we work dimensionally wider at the bottom, skinnier at the top, we worked higher to lower to come to that point to give it that more authentic look, okay? So let's put in one more eyeball. All right. I'm going to come right in here, start the eyeball. This is the coolest cookie. I had so much fun making this one, you guys. I really did. Use a little bit of the Turkish black and get his eye going. What are y'all doing while I'm doing this cookie? Is anybody cooking with me? Are you guys just watching this and I'm kind of on mute, or what's happening? There's a lot of people on tonight. I didn't expect so many of you. What do you think? Do you like that? He's so creepy. I love it. Oh, okay, you're cooking. You're cooking with me? Okay. You like it? All right. Now we need to go back and add the branches real quick, though, so that I don't forget, okay? I mean, he's really cool that he's spooky and all that, but he's going to look better if he has some arms. So let's plan just little pinches, you guys. It's not a lot. And do you need me to zoom back out? Becky, you're doing this with me? That's so cool. Alyssa, you're baking 4 dozen cookies and listening and watching. I hope I keep you guys company. When I was doing lots of cookies at the store and I had to stay up there and work real late because I was doing cakes, cupcakes, and cookies, and it was before the pandemic started, and I was up there a lot, I would watch Jen with Emily Mays all the time, any old videos I could find. She just has such a soothing voice. I'd find any of her old episodes of Cookie Lookie and watch those while I was working. So you see, I just basically made a log. I found the cool part. I intentionally picked out a cool marbled part. I cut it off flat. Now what I'm going to do is attach it. Let's see. Yeah, I think I want to attach here. All right, I'm attaching it. It's so soft, it attached to the tree, no problem. I want to make like a triangle shape by pinching to get it attached to the cookie, right? Then I want to go back with my thingamajiggy. You can use a boo-boo stick too. If you feel like the thingamajiggy is too big for you, then get you out a little boo-boo stick. You can do it with the X-Acto knife, but when you're doing a tree, it's easier with this because this is a little wider and it doesn't cut so much, if that makes sense. So you use what you want to. Now look, at the part where the arm joins the tree, or the branch joins the tree, I'm kind of going a little off the side and then pushing back to the tree so that you get that rough texture where it joins. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to shape the branch a little bit more. Okay. I'm using the pull of the fondant to kind of make the branch swoop down and pull it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Don't mess up your moon face. Don't be me. I'm pulling it down so it looks gnarly and twisted, right? Everything Halloween should be gnarly and twisted. Okay, so let's lift that up so you can see it, because I think just that little bit of playing with it, okay? Do you see how we twisted it? Okay, and you see it's cool? That's so cool. He looks great. I like him. I can't wait. Now, please practice your trees, not with the creepy face, but please practice your trees and your branches before the first Monday in October, because remember the week that I leave for Cookie Con. Do you see the little size I'm working with? Okay. Before I leave for Cookie Con, I travel all day Tuesday, so we're moving that event to be a Monday. So please practice your tree bases. That's all I'm going to tell you. Practice your tree bases, but not creepy tree bases, okay? Get some trees together. Now, we're going to need a really little arm on this right-hand side because we put his body so close to the edge. So I'm going to use my boo-boo stick. I'm going to try to keep this out of the way. I'm a little off and then pushing over. That's how I'm attaching it, getting some grooves. I'm going to pinch it and turn it, and then I'm going to re-groove it so that it has that motion. You see? I mean, come on. For a creepy cookie, we've got a skull moon. We've got a twisted up gnarly tree with a really creepy face. We've got ghosts. We've got these gnarly bats over here. So much fun. I'm going to cut this a little bit more now that it's crusted, but I'll show you that in a minute. And we need to get another branch up here. So go back to your fondant and find something that's still got good marbling and just pull out a little section, because that really, it makes a really fun cookie. All right, now for me, I find it easier, again, to lop the part off that's going next to the tree. I'm going to attach it here. I'm going to use let me come over here, my boo-boo stick. I'm off to the side and I'm pulling it back in. Okay, now this one, I want to elongate it. I want it to look really, really straggly. So let's get a few grooves and then let's flip it, because we have a lot of room up here to work with because we have this open space that we blacked out this morning, remember? but I want to get it real spindly. So I'm just using the motion where I'm grooving it to pull it. Okay. And then I'm keeping him on the cookie. Now I do need to do you guys want another little teeny piece right here? Because on my other cookie, I made it wrap the face. Do you want another little one? Kelly, did I already move it where you can see it, or do you want me to come back some more? Is that good? I think I want to put just a teeny tiny piece right here, okay? So I'm just going to find a little, I mean, I'm talking little piece to come over the moon face, okay? And I'm going to attach it. I don't need to cut that one because it's so tiny. Can you see it? And I'm going to onto the side to attach it to the tree. All right, now this is very delicate, so I need something smaller. Let's start using our little Dresden tool. This Dresden tool is great because it's got a sharper point on the back part of it. Let's wrap this up into the eyeball a little bit. I just find like that's super creepy. Now, I really wanted you to learn how to do the bats, but honestly, what I wanted to do on this cookie, which I'm saving for another cookie in the set, is a spider. But if you get so inspired and you want to create a spider over here, you can, but there's going to be a spider. Let me zoom out a little bit. There's going to be a spider on another cookie in the set, and I wanted all the cookies to be a little bit different, so you were learning different techniques on each one. But if you really want to do a spider, do a spider. Okay, because I really was going to do a spider, but then I wanted to save it for when we came back to this. Now I'm got to add a little bit of chocolate brown, because when I photograph this out in the sun tomorrow, it's really going to show up that I didn't come back and make this match. Okay. That little bit of shading. Plus we've got that marbling. Plus we've got the motion from doing the grooves. Okay. I feel like I like that. I'm not seeing any questions, right? We good? It's so neat, right? The tree's your favorite. Now this, guys, don't waste this. It's marbled, but just go ahead and finish mixing it up and then save this in a sealed Ziploc bag, because you can use this for something else that's coming up. So if you made too much, just save it. If you made too much black, save it. And the way I like to save this, you guys, is not just dropping them into a Ziploc bag, but I actually like to wrap each of these little balls in a piece of press and seal or saran wrap, just a little square, drop it in, twist it, and then put it in a Ziploc bag, because then the whole surface is covered, okay? All right, so let's take a look at our 2 cookies. But if you'll just give me just a second, I want to go back and I want to rough this up a little bit more. Now that it's drier and more crusted, I can get even more dimension on the top part of him. So I really want him to look spooky. These will probably go in my store window for Halloween. Rough him up, and my little bats, they look really good. So let's move this over. Let's get this stuff out of the way, and let's pull our 2 cookies over so you guys can do a screenshot if you want. Okay, let's get them onto a clean surface, and that way you can look at them and then decide what you actually want to create. And while I'm doing that, you guys tell me if there's any questions. Okay, I know this was a long one tonight. Thank you for everybody that hung with me. I did prep you this morning to be prepared to stay because we were sculpting so many pieces. But now that you know how to sculpt them, as you know what the designs are going forward, you'll be able to do a little bit of that leg work ahead of time, okay? So here you have, okay? I do feel like I want to darken this up a little bit more before I photograph it, so it's a little more pronounced like this, but I can do that really quickly by just adding some Everclear and Turkish Black to it. How about we do them like this? Let me zoom out a little more. Then you guys can get a screenshot, and that way you guys can start playing. All right, let's see. Let's get them together here. Okay. Can you get a good shot with that? That'll give you some ideas. All right. And does anyone have any questions for me for tonight? Anybody? You like them? Okay. So I hope my creepy doesn't freak you all out as we head into Halloween. I'm actually going to put some blood on a couple of the cookies. We're going to make some corn syrup blood. Do you guys know how to do that? If you don't, you will. So anyway, also don't forget those candies I showed you this morning. This is perfectly sized. These gravestones are perfectly sized for this tree and cookie, that if you want to add a gravestone underneath the tree, so it's a graveyard, like really a graveyard cookie, all you need is a little bit of royal icing on the back, a thicker royal icing, right? Obviously not a flood. And then you can put this in between those tree roots. So you can have a little tombstone on here too. It's sized just right if you don't mind a little candy piece on here. Okay. Priscilla, you want red eyes? Maybe I'll go back and color his eyes red for you tonight. All right. Don't forget, you guys, follow that coffee shop link over, download the free form. If you're going to be in Dallas, follow the instructions on the form. I explained it in the video at the beginning, but it's also right on the form. So go over to the coffee shop, download that form, get it filled out, and then send that back to me before the 21st, because I have really cool swag bags for you guys if you're going to be in Dallas. Now, if you're not going to be in Dallas, don't be upset, because if you are getting the limited edition Christmas kit, or you get the Christmas kit, you're also getting some special things that I ordered for just those boxes. So you will also have a special item this year. Okay. All right, guys, thanks so much. And thank you for hanging with me so long tonight. I think it's totally worth it. It's going to make the rest of your cookies in the series go faster. And it's also going to give you some time to practice, because now we're going to be switching back over. And each week we're going to, Teresa, the kits aren't being released yet. It's going to be end of September, and then one end of October, and then one the first week in November. It's going to release spaced out, and all that info is going to be on Cookie Snack Attack and the Seriously Sweet page. So what was I just telling you before that? Hold on. I lost my train of thought again. Hold on just a second. It'll come to me. I thought it would come back, you guys. 10 seconds. No, it's not your fault. I read something else and then I saw yours, so I thought I'd answer because I thought I'd remember. Let me just think. I think that we were talking about Dallas. Yeah, and don't be upset, because even though you are going to get swag bags if you're in person, because I want to meet up and try and I either want to get a group photo, or I want to try to get photos with each of you and me so that we can put a collage together, since it'll be our first time since having the Cookie Snack Attack group that we will have had a cookie con. So I want to make sure we do something special to commemorate the first one. Boo is too white, so candy is black, or it isn't. It says RIP, rest in peace, and it's actually a gray candy. You could paint this candy, though. If you have any of the acrylic edible paints, you could change the color of the headstone easily. No problem at all. And this cookie is actually laid out that you could put more than one headstone on it, but I just feel like we have enough. We have enough going on with our family of bats coming out of the cave, and then we've got our ghosts coming out, and we've got a skeleton. You got a lot going on. Yes. So get that form filled out, get it back to me. Make sure you also text the word CookieCon to me on the text number. That way I can text everybody all at one time once we're in Dallas. So if we can score a place where we can hang out, then I'm going to try to do that. If that doesn't work out, then we'll just try once we're there and on site and figure out a place we can meet up. Then I'll text everybody. Who knows, you guys, I barely sleep. So you could get a text at 9:30 saying, hey, we're going to be down in the lobby for the next hour and a half. Come see us, whatever. But I definitely want to meet everybody and commemorate the occasion. It's my first Cookie Con, and it's our first Cookie Con for Cookie Snack Attack. So I will see you later. I hope you all have a fabulous evening. I hope you learn tons, and I hope you start practicing so that you can have a fabulous ending cookie for the series. Once you see what we have planned for that, I want to make sure you really have this tree going on, okay? Good night, you guys. Have a great evening and happy Tuesday. I'll see you multiple times this week because I have box unveilings to do. So I'll be seeing you a couple more times before next week. See you later.